Karoline Leavitt stood at the edge of the White House briefing room, her magenta suit a bold contrast to the muted grays of the journalists jostling for seats. At 27, she was the youngest press secretary in U.S. history, a title that weighed heavier than the gold hoop earrings she nervously adjusted. It was March 2025, and tonight, President Trump would deliver his first address to Congress since his re-election. Karoline had spent weeks preparing, her days a blur of press briefings and sleepless nights, her newborn son's cries echoing in her ears even now. She was a new mother, a fierce MAGA loyalist, and a woman on the verge of breaking, though she'd never admit it. The world saw her as unshakable, but inside, she was a storm of doubt, wondering if she could balance her duty to her country with the family she'd barely had time to hold. Karoline's journey to this moment had been relentless. A small-town girl from Atkinson, New Hampshire, she'd grown up in a family that ran an ice cream stand and a used truck dealership, places where hard work and grit were the currency of survival. Her Roman Catholic upbringing had instilled in her a deep sense of service, but it was Trump's 2016 campaign that lit a fire in her. She'd interned at the White House, fought her way to assistant press secretary in his first term, and ran a long-shot congressional campaign at 23. Now, as White House press secretary, she was the voice of a movement, but the cost was steep. Her husband, Nicholas, 32 years her senior, had been her rock, cradling their son while she dashed between studios. Yet, she hadn't been home for more than a few hours in weeks, and the guilt gnawed at her like a winter chill. That evening, as she stood in the Capitol, watching Trump take the podium, Karoline expected a speech filled with the fiery rhetoric she'd grown accustomed to defending. But something shifted when Trump began to speak of real Americans he'd invited to the chamber. He introduced a 13-year-old boy named DJ Daniel, a child battling brain cancer who dreamed of becoming a police officer. Trump's voice softened as he recounted how DJ had written him a letter, asking for a chance to serve. Tonight, Trump said, "I'm making DJ an honorary Secret Service agent." The chamber erupted in applause, but Karoline's breath caught. She glanced at DJ, seated with his family, his frail frame dwarfed by the uniform he'd been given, his smile brighter than the Capitol's chandeliers. Then came the unexpected turn. Trump paused, his gaze sweeping the room, and spoke directly to the lawmakers. "We fight for power, for policy, for victory," he said, but DJ reminded me what this is really about. It's about the people, the ones who don't have a voice unless we give it to them. He announced a new initiative. A fund to support children with terminal illnesses, ensuring they could live out their dreams, no matter how small. Karoline's eyes welled up. She thought of her son, of the nights she'd missed, of the dreams she wanted for him. But it wasn't just her. Across the aisle, even the most hardened Democrats were visibly moved, some wiping tears, others nodding in rare agreement. For a moment, the bitter divide in the room dissolved, replaced by a shared humanity. The emotional climax came when Trump invited DJ to the podium. The boy, unsteady on his feet, walked up with his mother's help, the crowd standing in ovation. He whispered into the microphone, his voice trembling but clear, "Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to help people, like you helped me." Karoline's tears spilled over. She thought of her own sacrifices, the late nights, the missed milestones with her son. But seeing DJ, she realized that her role, her voice, could amplify those who needed it most. In that moment, she vowed to be more than a spokesperson for a political agenda. She would be a bridge, a conduit for kindness, ensuring that the forgotten were seen, that acts of compassion could cut through the noise of division. As the speech ended, Karoline slipped out of the chamber, her heels echoing in the marble halls. She called Nicholas, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm coming home tonight," she said. "I need to hold our boy." That night, as she cradled her son, she felt a shift inside her. Her life's purpose crystallized, to serve not just a president, but the people, the DJs of the world, the families like hers, the dreamers who needed a champion. She returned to the White House the next day with a renewed fire, advocating for policies that uplifted the overlooked, from children's healthcare to parental leave. Karoline Leavitt, once defined by her loyalty to a movement, became a symbol of something greater, the power of selflessness to heal a nation. And in that transformation, she found her true voice, one that echoed with hope, resonating far beyond the podium, into the hearts of Americans everywhere. Karoline Leavitt woke the next morning to the soft coos of her son, his tiny hand grasping her finger as sunlight streamed into their New Hampshire home. It was a rare Saturday off, the first since Trump's speech to Congress 2 weeks ago. That night had rewired her soul, and the days since had been a whirlwind of purpose. She'd pushed for the Dream Fund initiative with a fervor that surprised even her closest aides, securing bipartisan support to launch a pilot program by summer. Yet, as she rocked her son, a new doubt crept in. Could she sustain this balance between motherhood and her mission? The turning point came unexpectedly that afternoon. While scrolling X, Karoline stumbled upon a post from DJ Daniel's mother, thanking her for a personal call Karoline had made to check on the boy. Attached was a photo of DJ in his honorary Secret Service uniform, grinning beside a police officer who'd volunteered to mentor him. The comments overflowed with stories, parents sharing how the fund had given their sick children a chance to dream, strangers pledging donations. Tears stung her eyes again, but this time, they were tears of connection. She realized her voice could ignite a movement beyond politics. That evening, Karoline gathered her team for an impromptu meeting via Zoom. "We're not just launching a fund," she declared, her voice steady with resolve. "We're building a community, people helping people, no matter the divide." She proposed a national day of service, inspired by DJ's selflessness, where Americans would volunteer in their towns. The room buzzed with energy, even the skeptics nodding. An unexpected ally emerged, Senator Maria Gonzalez, a Democrat from Texas, who offered to co-sponsor the effort, citing her own son's battle with illness years ago. The climax arrived on June 15, 2025, as the first National Day of Service unfolded. Karoline stood in Atkinson, handing out ice cream at her family's stand, now a hub for volunteers. She watched as DJ, frail but beaming, led a group of kids in planting a community garden. A crowd gathered, chanting his name, and Karoline felt a surge of pride, not for herself, but for them. She'd turned her platform into a beacon of compassion, bridging red and blue through shared humanity. As dusk fell, Karoline held her son close, the garden lights twinkling like stars. Her life had changed forever, not just because of a speech, but because she'd chosen to lift others up. Across America, millions volunteered that day, proving that kindness could heal a fractured nation. Karoline smiled, knowing her legacy would be one of hope, a reminder that even in division, the human heart could unite us all. The moral of the story. A deeper exploration at its core, the story of Karoline Leavitt's transformation during and after Trump's speech to Congress reveals a profound moral. True change begins with selflessness, and the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward to heal a divided world. This moral unfolds through Karoline's journey, offering lessons that resonate universally, especially in a polarized society like the United States in 2025.